The back lever is one of those skills that doesn't get a lot of respect. Firstly, because it looks needlessly painful, and secondly, because it's easier than the front lever. And that's how I used to feel as well, until I started training for it. Before I started training the back lever, I had a solid 2.5 years of calisthenics experience. I had already unlocked some other skills, and I had some experience in weighted calisthenics as well. So I figured this skill would be pretty simple to learn. However, over the next 8 months, I realized this assumption was not true. When I first started the back lever, I knew that mobility was one of my biggest weaknesses since I wasn't used to the large amount of shoulder extension involved in the movement. So I made the logical decision to start with German hangs. It was pretty simple at first. I did sets of 10 to 15 seconds in the German hang 2 to 3 times per week. This exercise was pretty uncomfortable at first, and to be honest, I'm not sure if it ever does get comfortable. But eventually, I felt confident enough to start training the tuck back lever. However, around this time, I applied for an online coaching program with a movement teacher I respected. He taught me how to handstand for free, and I thought I could learn some other cool stuff from him while also getting stronger. In hindsight, this coaching program was a good experience for me, but I also regret it because it was a bit incompatible with my goals. I wanted to be a specialized strength athlete, whereas the movement practice focuses on movement overall, not just strength. Since I mentioned wanting to learn the back lever, my coach made a program that included skin the cats, an exercise where you pull from a dead hang into a German hang. I think my teacher's goal wasn't to make me stronger at the back lever, but rather to improve my general shoulder mobility. This is because he prescribed a rest time of about 1 minute between sets, which isn't optimal for strength development. Also, the front lever portion of the movement wasn't very useful to me since my front lever was at a higher level than my back lever, and it just used up energy that otherwise could have been spent on the back lever. I continued this program for about 4 months, and despite the suboptimal programming, I still made decent progress. When fully rested, I could do skin the cats in a super advanced tuck position. At this point, I made the decision to discontinue the online coaching program and start training for my own goals. I started training back lever isometrics 1 time per week. The reason for this low frequency is that the back lever wasn't my main strength goal at the time. I was more interested in overhead pressing. Also, my lateral triceps and wrist extensors in both arms were slightly injured due to overexerting myself during skin the cat attempts. Since the rest time was only 1 minute, I wasn't fully recovered between sets, but I still tried to train the hardest progression possible. This is the calisthenics equivalent of training heavy bench presses with only 1 minute of rest between sets. Pretty dumb. Anyways, I started with the tuck back lever isometric. This might surprise a lot of you guys since I technically had been training the back lever for 4 months at this point, but I was still only at the tuck back lever variation. This just goes to show the importance of specificity. Even though the skin the cat has some carryover to the back lever isometric, its benefits are limited. In the back lever isometric, you train a specific shoulder angle for an extended period of time. However, in the skin the cat, you only maintain that shoulder angle for a fraction of a second. This is an important distinction between isometric and dynamic skills. Isometric skills are done at a fixed joint angle, unlike dynamic skills. Thus, it makes the most sense to train that specific joint angle to make the fastest progress. I continued training tuck back levers for a while, but I soon came across 2 videos where people documented their back lever journeys. In both videos, they used a resistance band progression to learn the skill. As a result, I decided to incorporate some resistance band work into my routine. This was a great decision because it made my training a lot more specific toward my goal of the full back lever. Also, it helped me with proprioception. I often found it difficult to tell if my body was horizontal or not, but this progression helped a lot. I continued this for the next 3 months, and by my 8th month of training this skill, I decided to attempt a full back lever. Surprisingly, I was able to hold it despite training the band-assisted variation only 1 time per week. And the reason for this is that I discovered the cheat code to the back lever. You see, all this time I had been training the back lever with a shoulder width grip. However, if you actually narrow the grip a little, you can use the friction between the lats and the triceps to assist with the movement. The downside to this progression is that it makes the exercise look a little bit uglier in my opinion. So even though I could hold a full back lever with assistance from my lats, my actual level was probably somewhere around the straddle back lever. At this point, I decided to train the back lever 3 times per week. I trained high intensity attempts 1 time per week, and I trained high volume tuck back lever pulls 2 times per week. The reason I included the tuck back lever pulls is that I felt like my injury risk would be too high if I trained high intensity back lever attempts every single session. I had already injured my rotator cuff at that point, and I was training other skills like weighted pull-ups and pseudo planche push-ups, which pre-exhaust a lot of the muscles used in the back lever. So I figured that doing most of my volume in a lower intensity progression made the most sense for me. If you're still wondering why I decided to train tuck back lever pulls after saying that dynamic progressions aren't very specific to isometrics, let me clarify. First, the progression that I didn't like, the skin the cat, was bad because the front lever portion was wasting energy and I was resting for only 1 minute. In this case, I was only doing the back lever portion of the movement and I was resting for closer to 3 minutes. Secondly, I was training the back lever 3 times per week. Even if 2 of my sessions weren't very specific, the high training volume would still help me to unlock the back lever. And lastly, my goal for this exercise was to condition my joints, not to learn the back lever as fast as possible. Sometimes it makes more sense to sacrifice short-term progress in exchange for training longevity. Anyways, I continued this training scheme for the next 2 months, and by my 10th month of training the back lever, I was able to do full back levers with minimal assistance from my lats and triceps. And I was even working on straddle back lever presses. And I have to say, after 10 months of training, my respect for this skill increased a lot. I mean, look at my shoulders. This exercise makes me look jacked. Anyways, I hope this video helped you out, and best wishes in your training. Bye.